on the recording. Lovely. So we're going to start seated, spending a little bit of time settling in. For those on the recording, I have just advised everyone grab a strap if they have one nearby. So you might find that helpful, but we'll start in a seated position. So whatever's comfortable for you, whatever that kind of means for you, whether that's cross-legged, legs out on a chair, on your bed, all good. And we'll just start to settle and arrive. So if it feels good to do so, you might want to kind of close the eyes or at least lower the gaze. Just starting to check in. We'll start with the external first, so the outer world, so checking in with the body. Maybe gently scanning the body, noticing how the body's feeling today. Acknowledging how we're feeling in the body. And just noticing, not trying to change anything. Just noticing, accepting where we are today, seeing how we've arrived, how we've showed up. I think one of the important things we try to reiterate and reinforce of our yoga is about meeting ourselves where we are. We're not trying to force our body into anything or take on more than we're ready for. So acknowledging where the body is today, and that can be very different each time we show up. And once we've scanned the body, maybe we'll start to tune in with the breath, so noticing where the breath is. Noticing where in the body we can feel the breath, whether it's high up in the chest, whether it's in the belly. There's no kind of right or wrong at this point. We're just noticing, acknowledging, and not trying to control or change it. Feeling where the body's the breath is expanding and contracting the body. Maybe starting to invite in a slow, steady whispering inhale. Maybe through the nose, pausing for a moment for a beat at the top before we start to release and lengthen the exhale. Finding a comfortable rhythm for you, breathing lots of love in. Exhaling lots of love out. Maybe with that exhale, we start to drop the shoulders, release any tension in the jaw, and really ground the legs into the mat. As we exhale, noticing this moment of arriving, that feeling of coming home, coming back to ourselves. So we've been looking through our yamas the last few weeks. So we've touched on ahimsa, which is the first yama. So our ethical principle of non-harming, non-violence. We've also looked at satya, so truthfulness, bringing our truth, showing up as our true selves. And we're going to start to look at asteya, which is non-stealing. So it's an important yogi principle. It obviously means no physical stealing. We would hope that none of us are involved with that. But also being really conscious that we're not stealing things like people's time, people's energy, people's intellectual work, all of these kind of things. And as with the principles and the yamas we've looked at so far, we want to look at how that plays out as we interact with others in the world, but also how we interact with ourselves. So we want to ensure that we're not stealing these opportunities from ourselves to find joyful movement, to find rest, to find progress. So paying attention to ourselves and where we are today. So in our yoga practice, that might mean for us not necessarily going for that most advanced pose, because that might not be the best choice for our body, for our energy, for our headspace. So knowing and remembering that everything I offer is just an invitation, and it might not be for you today, and that's okay if that's the case. So as we practice today, we'll keep reminding ourselves that you are enough, you do enough, you have enough. So we'll say that a couple more times in our head before we start moving. So to really remind ourselves, really let that sink in. That you are enough, you do enough, you have enough. You are enough, you do enough, you have enough. Breathing in that intention. Maybe with an exhale, sighing everything out nice and loudly. And we'll do that one more time, breathing lots of love in. Exhale, letting it all go. Lovely. And we might start to bat open the eyelids, bringing our awareness, our consciousness back to the room, back to each other. And we're going to start to move our arms with the breath. So really using the breath to fuel the movement. We're going to inhale, start to take those fingertips out to the side, really opening through the chest, reaching through those fingertips. With an exhale, we'll bring those hands together, spreading the fingertips nice and wide so we really get this sense of pushing that energy in towards the midline. We'll drop the chin, inhale, taking the palms behind the neck and then reaching them up and overhead. So we're lifting out of the side body. And then we'll rain those fingertips back down in line with the shoulders, wiggling the fingers to take that cycle again. So as we exhale, pushing the hands together, bringing ourselves to our center, to our heart space. And you can continue through this little sequence in your own time, knowing you don't need to go at the same speed or rhythm as anyone else. But really get that sense of the breath kind of driving your arms, driving the movement. So when we're fetuses, supposedly our arms actually grow out of our lungs, which I know is a bit of a strange image, but I sometimes like to remember that as we're kind of moving the arms out, the breath really does kind of fuel and power the limbs. And if we can kind of really try to tune into what's going on inside the internal organs, it can make our movements that little bit softer, a bit more easeful, and also can help us be super aware of the body and how different things feel. So we'll take that loop, that little sequence one last time. And then when it feels right for you, we'll wiggle the fingertips back down to the knees. And then inhaling, sitting up nice and tall, lengthening through the spine. We'll start to walk those fingertips around to the side, twisting from the rib cage, nice and gentle, taking the gaze behind for the twist. You can keep it quite open. So Lizzie, you might want to keep it a little bit more open so you can keep that front arm on the opposite knee, just to stop us closing ourselves off. Breathing into the belly, into the internal organs. We'll inhale, bringing those arms up nice and tall, reaching through the front body, and then as we exhale, we'll take that twist to the other side, either bringing the arm to the opposite knee, or we'll keep it nice and open again if that feels more comfortable. Nice deep conscious breaths here. Lovely, guys. Reminding ourselves you're enough, you do enough, you have enough. And then we're going to come back to center. Lovely. From here, we're going to take the legs out nice and wide, but we're going to keep one foot tucked in. So maybe taking the right foot out, keeping the toes nice and active and engaged. And we're going to draw that left foot into the inner thigh. And then placing our right hand inside that right leg, we're going to start to reach up through the opposite hand, reaching out, up and over to come into our side stretch. Keeping that elbow up nice and tall. Lovely, guys, you're all looking good. So we're not closing ourselves off, we're keeping it nice and light and bright. Maybe taking the gaze up to that top elbow. And we're looking to, find that length in the side body, that nice stretch, but we're also looking to get a bit of stillness in the mind. So if a bit of gentle movement helps you find that stillness in the mind, then you can do that. And as we exhale, we'll cartwheel those arms over, coming all the way around. So the left hand comes to the earth, right hand reaches up opposite, and you can choose how far you want to go. We can keep it quite tall, quite bright. Might be coming over. Lovely. And then you can stay here if this feels good. You look like you're getting a good stretch there. Or if you like, you can bring that right foot down and then pushing into the left shin. We're going to lift up into our baby wild thing. So bringing the pelvis forward, letting that top arm fall back just slightly so you get that little moment of almost falling sensation of letting go. But keep pushing through your strong legs. And then we'll exhale slowly with control, bringing that pelvis back down. Lovely. And then we're going to switch our legs over to the other side. So taking the left leg out, let's think about that one then. Tucking in the right foot this time. We're going to take the same movement on this side. Maybe it will feel similar on this side, maybe it will feel different. But really thinking up and out and over before we come over into that stretch. Keeping the foot nice and engaged so we're staying strong in the back muscles of the legs and the IT band. Breathing into the stretch, breathing into the side body. Fab, and then we're going to cartwheel those arms over nice and gently and no rush, not stealing any moments from ourselves. Finding that stretch on the other side. And again, we can stay here if this feels good, if we're enjoying the stretch, or if you want to play around with our baby wild thing. I know it's not everybody's favorites. We can pop that extended foot down, push into our shin and our leg, lifting the pelvis up nice and strong. Letting our chest and our heart space almost shine up towards the sky. Pushing away from the earth, really connecting with the ground, with the mat. And then we're going to lower our pelvis down nice and slowly with control. And then come on over to our tabletop. So maybe we cross the ankles over, use our hands to really guide us forward. To come on over into your comfortable tabletop. So again, checking in with what the body might need. If you want any padding underneath the wrists or underneath the knees today. I'm getting a lot of wrist problems from all this working at home on a mouse. So, take care, tend to your body. And then you all know where we're going. We're going to go through some cat-cow. So whatever that looks like for you today, whether that's our standard kind of traditional cat-cow, dropping the belly, sending the gaze up tall, pushing into the hands, and then reversing that movement, pushing through the shoulder blades. Or maybe you want to spice things up today, add your own little spin. Maybe you want to dip the hips from side to side, taking the gaze behind you. Maybe you want kind of a figure of 8 shape, bring it into our cosmic cat. Or maybe you're going to kind of reverse or alternate, I should say, between our child's pose, our cat. But we're just aiming to bring a little bit of mobility into the spine. So moving in a way that feels good for you. Starting to open up through the spine. And again, feeling that sensation of letting the breath drive the movement. Feeling into all the nooks and crannies. Arriving in your version of cat-cow. Finding yourself here in the movement. Practicing the version that aligns with what's right for you, what's right for your body, your energy levels today. It's Thursday, it's the end of the week. I'm always a little bit more tired by the time we get to this session. Fab. And then when you're ready, we're going to come back to neutral. So coming back to that nice strong spine. And to do that, we're really going to push away from our mat. So spreading the fingertips nice and tall. We're almost wrapping the elbows round. So wrapping the arms to send the elbow creases forward. So we're nice and strong in the shoulders. And then from here, we're going to take the left foot all the way to the back of the mat. We're going to drop that heel down, pivot on the knee off the long edge, and start to reach up into our side plank. So it's almost quite similar to our baby wild thing, except we're keeping it quite structured, quite strong. We're not allowing that kind of falling sensation. We want to really reach through those fingertips as if I'm there pulling you up from those fingertips. So continuing to push out of the mat. And if this feels good, we're going to stay here. If you want a little extra fire, a little extra balance, then we might start to lift that left heel off the earth, really pushing away with that foot. Nice, Molly. Really good, guys. So pushing out as if you've got a wall next to you, so really nice and strong in the leg. Remembering to push through the hand as well, maybe taking that gaze to the top fingertip if that helps find that lift. And then when you're ready, we'll release that foot back down to the floor, bringing ourselves back to our tabletop, so nice and controlled. And you can dip the hips from side to side or do anything you need to do to release any tension. And then we'll take that onto the other side. So this time sending the right heel out long, toes come to the floor, and then we're going to drop the heel down, pivot on that knee, so sending it off 90 degrees again before we start to reach up to the sky. I'm going to come and look at you guys, otherwise I'm not going to be able to see. Looking good, guys. So keeping that gaze straight ahead or maybe to your top fingertips. I know that might be challenging when you've all got cute babies and dogs and cats distracting you, but choosing where to put your gaze. Pushing out of the body, remembering that option to lift that back foot if you'd like to, if that feels good for you today. If that adds some value to your practice, then absolutely do it. If it doesn't, skip it, ignore it, that's fine. So holding here nice and strong. Lovely. And then we're going to bring that leg back down in line with our tabletop. Super. And then crossing the ankles, we're going to bring our bum back over, bringing us back to seated. So we're going to do one kind of final seated pose here before we start to move up to our standing. So this is when, if you do have your strap, that might be useful. If you don't have one, it's really not the end of the world. We can definitely work without it. But we're going to be looking at some forward folds later in the session. So I wanted us to start kind of lengthening our hamstrings, and the strap can be quite a nice way to help the body with that. So we're going to come into our Janu Sirsasana. So before we get there, I want us to sit up nice and tall in our Dandasana, our staff pose. So legs are nice and long. As we inhale, we're really lifting the spine, and that might kind of involve a little bit of a tilt of the pelvis. If that's quite hard to maintain, then it can be quite nice to pop something underneath your sitting bones, whether that's a pillow, a yoga block. You can even just fold up your mat. Yeah, lovely, guys. Good use of props. Whatever's going to help you sit up nice and tall. And we're really focusing on kind of the long spine. So if we want to have a slight bend in the knees here, then that's absolutely fine. We can keep that bend in the knees if that's a bit more comfortable. So from here, we're going to bring our left foot in to meet our right thigh, just as we did in that wide-legged side stretch. And then taking the strap, we're going to gently place that around the ball of the opposite foot. Then finding a comfortable position to hold your strap, so kind of taking your arms out to a comfortable length, so that we're starting to gently apply a little bit of pressure to the ball of the foot. And then as we inhale, lengthening the spine nice and tall. As we exhale, we'll start to hinge from the hips, so we're sending our belly towards the thigh, keeping that nice bend in the knee if we'd like to. And then when we can't kind of bend anymore without curving the spine over, you might want to start to walk your hands down the strap just to find a little bit of pressure, tension on that hamstring, hopefully finding quite a nice stretch. And there might be quite a lot going on in your hamstrings here. They might be really kind of hopefully talking gently at you, but they might be kind of shouting, screaming at you. So just finding that nice kind of sweet spot between a good stretch. Using the strap to support you. You can kind of bring your nose down towards your knee, towards your thigh if that feels good. But we want to try and keep that nice straight spine. So if we're sat up here, then that's all good. Way to be where we're at today. But hopefully we're still feeling that stretch in the hamstring. So we're lengthening the back body. So we're lengthening the spine, we're lengthening the hamstrings, the calf. And then wherever we are, we'll start to release that strap, so bringing ourselves back up to seated. And then we'll swap those legs over, so sending the left foot out nice and long, bringing the right foot up to meet the thigh, and we'll take that strap over again. So bringing it over the ball of the foot. And then really focusing as we inhale, get that nice lift in the spine. So imagine it's a nice piece of thread coming out of your head. And then as we exhale, hinging at the hip, coming forward until you get a nice stretch. Like I said, that might not be very far. If we want to keep it quite open, then that's all good. The strap should hopefully still help you feel a bit of a stretch in the hamstring, even if we're staying in our kind of Dandasana variation. Finding that comfortable position for you, lengthening through the spine, lengthening through the back of the leg, remembering to keep breathing. Lovely, guys. And then with our exhale, we'll release the strap, bringing ourselves back up. Lovely. We'll take that strap off, and then we'll come back towards our tabletop. But looking good, guys. Really nice straight spines, nice straight legs. So we're gonna come to our low lunge and just go through a couple kind of transitions from our low lunge to our half split. So we're aiming to get our left foot up between our hands. So if you need to kind of take it up behind you, I like to do that to make a little bit of space. Or maybe we're bringing it round, or maybe we've got enough space to bring it through the hands, whatever works for you. We're coming into our low lunge, keeping that focus on those legs being on train tracks. We don't want to be walking on a tightrope. We want to make sure we've got lots of space. And then gently easing ourselves in, we're just going to start to rock into that front knee, allowing it to bend. Keeping that knee stacked nicely over the ankle, so we don't want to take it too far past. And then straightening through the leg, bringing it back. Super. So we're still warming through the body here. But then next time the knee comes forward, maybe we start to nice and light on the fingertip, lift our front body up nice and tall, coming towards that Anjaneyasana. Great, guys. Really reaching out the side body. Big beach ball overhead. Lizzie, your arms look lovely. Molly, very strong, holding a baby overhead as well. And we can keep the arms up. That can be quite nice for inviting in lots of energy. Or you can interlace the fingers, take them behind the neck. I quite like that option to open through the chest and the shoulders. So whichever one feels right for you. We really want to kind of feel strong in our pelvis, so activating that Mula Bandha, building the pose from the foundation up. And then we're going to release the fingers, so we'll bring to wrap and back around that front foot. And then we're going to lengthen through that leg. So we're bringing the hip back as far as is comfortable. It might still be quite far forward. We might be bringing it quite a long way back to find that comfortable position. But we're straightening through the leg, and it doesn't need to be kind of poker stick straight. Mine definitely isn't. And then from here, kind of getting that sensation of, you know, when we do cow and cat-cow, that's kind of the shape that we want the belly and the spine. So we're dropping the belly, heart is shining forward, gaze is straight ahead. So feeling that length in the hamstrings. Taking a couple deep, lovely breaths here, filling up the body. And then we'll walk ourselves back forward. Nice, finding that bend in the knee again. Great, guys. And then we're going to bring that leg back and take that all onto the other side. So the right foot this time, stepping that up between your hands. I'm going to come and watch you guys this time. Good, and easing into it again. So giving yourself a few breaths really to kind of find that movement in the hips, find that strength in the pelvis. And then when you're ready, we'll start to lift up through those fingertips, taking them up nice and tall into our Anjaneyasana. Knee is bent in front, lovely. Arms are active and energized, so we're really reaching through each and every fingertip. Breathing in, shining the heart forward. Oh, it's so cute. So many dogs on the screen. Sorry. And then when we're ready, we'll bring those fingertips back down to wrap around the foot. And we'll start to lengthen through that front leg. So bringing the hip back, straightening through that leg, finding that cow position in the belly and in the spine. Gaze is coming forward. Breathing into the movement. Take this moment to arrive in the pose. It's very easy to be like, well, where have we just come from? Where are we going next? Trying to guess kind of what we're going to be doing after, but really arriving, settling here. Fab. And then when you're ready, we're going to start to come back towards that front foot. So you might want to bend through the knee again. Curl those back toes under, lift that knee off the mat, and then lots of energy. We're going to step that front foot in, back foot to meet the front. Sorry, bad explaining there. And then nice and slowly start to roll our way back up towards standing. Super. As we get in here, arrive, rolling the shoulders back, dropping them down the back, sending the palms forward to find your Tadasana. Lovely. Really taking your attention to the feet, so grounding, pushing through the feet here, feeling into each toe. Excuse me while I take my socks off a second. We are going to be doing some standing poses. If you do have your socks on, this will be a good time to take them off. But feeling into each and every toe here as we push away from the ground, energizing, activating through the legs. So we're going to play around with a little transition we were playing with last week. So from here, we're going to move towards our tree pose. We're going to play with a couple balances before we move into our standing poses. Each of the poses that we go through this evening, again, find your options, use any props, take softer options, add a little bit of challenge or heat if we want to. So from here, we'll start to shift our weight into our left leg, start to bring that right knee up in front of us, toes spread nice and wide, fingertips spread nice and wide, so we're taking up lots of space, hinging through that hip, hoop through the knee. And then we're going to find that comfortable position to put that foot to come into our tree pose, our Vrksasana. So taking that knee out towards the side, bringing those toes to a comfortable position on that leg. So whether it's toes are on the floor, heel of the foot resting on the ankle, could be on the calf. If we're on the knee, as always, making sure we're not collapsing lots of weight into the knee, or maybe we're bringing it up into our thigh. Finding that balancing pose, pushing through the standing leg, taking your gaze straight out in front of you to find a drishti. Finding some stillness here as we draw everything into the midline. You can bring your hands to your chest for Anjali Mudra if that supports you, if that connects you, helps you feel grounded. Or maybe we're opening the arms up and overhead, dropping the shoulders, inviting energy in, almost using that counterweight of the arms to keep us up nice and tall. And wherever we are, so you're all looking really strong, really balanced. So definitely don't look at the screen or anyone else while we do this next bit. But we're going to bring our hands in front of our chest. So everybody coming to Anjali Mudra, prayer pose. And then we're going to bring that knee back in, spreading the toes nice and wide. We're going to push that foot out behind us into an imaginary wall, tilting our spine forward nice and strong, finding our warrior three. So coming as far as is comfortable, maybe we're parallel with the ground, as Molly and Brittany currently are. Or maybe we're a little bit more tilted, but we're going to continue pushing through that heel and kind of visualizing that energy, that nice straight line from our heel to the top of our head. Lovely Lizzie, lovely Kirsten. Playing around with it, finding the joy in the movement, connecting to our center, to our core. If we fall out, it's all good. We can come back in. Nice, pushing down through the standing toe. And then when you guys are ready, you're going to drop that back heel back behind you, come into your high lunge. Lovely, guys. Fab. Continuing to push through both legs, nice and strong in the legs, and you can keep your palms in front of you if that feels good, or maybe taking them up to the sky to really open our Alasana, our lunge. Keeping the legs nice and stacked. Breathing into the movement as you breathe, really letting the arms grow up and overhead. And then with your exhale, maybe we'll start to reach those fingertips out towards the side, turning your pelvis forward to your warrior two. Lovely, guys. So we're coming to our warrior two, opening through the chest, reaching out through those arms, really radiating from the pose. Making sure that knee isn't falling in. We want to keep it nice and stacked. Looking good, guys. Looking over those fingertips, really taking our focus, our attention just over those fingers. Pushing down through both legs. So keep pushing through that back leg. We want it to keep it nice and engaged, nice and active. Trying to be super present in the moment, noticing how do the feet feel, how do the legs feel, how are my arms feeling. We're not comparing to each other. And I think that's a really nice thing about practicing at home and online is we're not looking at what everyone else is doing. We're finding what feels right for us this evening. Great, and when you're ready from here, we're going to start to bend through that front elbow, bring that front elbow down to the front knee. So we're placing it on that knee. We want to be careful that we're not kind of collapsing into it. We're not using that knee to hold us, but we're going to use that knee as support and then reach up those top fingertips. So we're staying up nice and tall for our Parsvakonasana side angle pose. So really strong pose, this one. If it feels a bit much, then we can straighten through that front leg. We can bring the arm down, or we can come back to our warrior two. If we were loving life there, then, you know, why do something that we're not loving? So keeping that gaze facing up towards those top fingertips, so same as we were doing before, really reaching up and out of the legs. And then option to add a bind, if that's going to feel good for us, or if we want to have a bit of a challenge, try something different. And you can do this with or without the strap. But if you do want to do the strap, to use the strap, we're going to keep the strap in our bottom hand. I'm going to turn around so you can see my arms behind me. We're going to practice coming into our birds of paradise. So we're going to bring that top arm back behind us. And then with that bottom arm, we're going to reach it underneath the knee and start to reach towards that top hand. So the strap can be quite nice to help with this. Or if your arms are the right length, then you might be able to wriggle the fingertips back. If you get any pain at the shoulders, then maybe we leave it for today. Maybe we wait till I'm there with you in person and we can have a play with it together. But with that bind, keeping that top shoulder open, pushing through both legs so that the arms aren't kind of yanking us into the position. We're going to hold it here for 3, 2, 1. And then wherever we are, we're going to release that bind, release the arms, coming back to our warrior two. Lovely, guys. My thigh is really feeling it now. And then we'll bring the hands to the hips. Turn those toes in and then heel toe or jump back to bring the arms together. Lovely, guys. The arms, the legs. Oh, not very good yoga teacher. Can't tell my arms and legs apart. Giving those legs a good shake up. Lovely, guys. Fab, you're all looking really strong in those poses. So good choice of options for you all. It's nice to know that you kind of know where you each need to go to be comfortable. Fab, grabbing a drink if we need one. And then we're going to take those on the other side. So we're going to find our tree pose again on the other side. But before we go there, we're going to check back in with Tadasana. Mountain pose, feeling into the feet, maybe closing the eyes for a moment so we can really draw inwards. Taking this moment to almost rest and replenish our energy. Finding a little bit of quiet if If I'll stop talking, you can find some quiet to tune into the breath. Let the practice show you that you're enough. You have enough, you're doing enough. Noticing how the poses felt on that side that we've just done. Seeing if we want to do anything slightly differently as we go through them again. And then we'll back the eyelids open. This time we're going to shift our weight into our right hand side and start to find your tree pose on this side. So bringing the left leg up in front of you, spreading through the toes, bending that knee, pushing down through the standing leg, putting your limbs in a place that are going to support you, that are going to help you feel held and balanced. And then we'll start to open out through that knee, bringing it to the side, and then finding where we're going to place the leg, whether it's on the floor, on the calf, further up. And it might be different on this side, that's okay. If you're struggling to balance like I am, that's all okay too. I'm going to hold it here for a few breaths. Use the arms to support you, so that tensegrity of the body as the body helps and balances other areas. Holding the movement here, finding that focus, that stillness. And then in your own time, at your own speed, we're going to transition to that warrior three again. And if the foot comes down, it's all good. We're just playing, it's fine. But if you're trying to come into warrior three, we're going to bring that knee back in front, spreading the toes nice and wide, pushing that foot into that imaginary wall behind us as we bring our heart space over. So lifting the thumb up to the chest, toes really turning down before the floor, towards the floor even. You guys all look great. I'm not even just saying that. You're all absolutely smashing it. Finding that comfortable position for your arms. So if in at the chest helps you, great. If pushing down away from the floor is helpful, that's all good. Or if you want a little bit of more challenge, maybe we take the arms up and overhead to add that extra length, that extra strength in the spine. Nice, guys. Keep pushing through that back foot. So you want to keep the back foot nice and active. And then when we're ready to come out of our warrior three, we're going to let that back foot fall behind us, coming into our high lunge. And if you need to adjust or wiggle or anything there, then that's all fine. We're not going to fall perfectly into our Alasana or our high lunge straight away. But finding that comfortable position with the legs to ground down into the earth. And then taking the arms either on the hips, or maybe we're reaching them up and overhead. Great, guys. Grounding down through the feet. Feeling the humming sensation in the body. And then when you're ready, we'll use that breath, use that exhale, just like we've been doing, to drop that back heel 45 degrees, open up the arms, send them nice and wide for our warrior two. Radiating through the arms, really stretching the arms out, lovely. Unless you're holding a baby, don't stretch that arm out. Pushing through the legs as we do so. Taking that gaze up ahead. Knowing there's nothing else we need to be doing right now. We're taking up space, we're feeling our energy. And then when you're ready with your breath, we're going to start to bend through that front elbow, bringing it down to rest gently on that knee, reaching those top fingertips up and away, so nice and strong through the legs. So we're getting that nice opening in the chest. We can add on our bind version in a moment if people want to play around with that bird of paradise bind, or we can just take that top arm and place it behind us. So even if we're not trying to reach for our hands, that can still be quite nice at keeping that shoulder open. So that's an option as well. I do quite like my hand up just to find a little bit of lift, but whatever works for you all. Great, guys, taking the gaze Up, tuning in with the breath. Seeing if there's anywhere we can find a little bit of ease. Is there anywhere we can soften? Make this just 1% nicer, 1% more yummy. And we can stay in this pose, or if you'd like to, you can come down to that bird of paradise bind. So we're going to take that bottom arm, reach through the knees, bring that top arm down, see if we can connect with the fingertips. But we're keeping that shoulder nice and open if so. So this bind, like he says, it's our bird of paradise preparation bind. I was saying to Brittany earlier in the week, in theory, the next step would be to push down through that extended leg and actually lift this knee up whilst we're still in that bind, but I definitely cannot do that. But I don't want to hold you guys back from doing that just because I can't. If that's something you want to play with, then please do, but safely. Now when you're ready, we're going to release that bind, those arms, coming back to our Parsvakonasana. Then almost as if I'm pulling you from those top fingertips, we're going to bring ourselves back round to Warrior Two. Bringing those hands to the hips. We're going to straighten through that front leg. Turn both toes inwards, so both are facing the front. Then inhaling up nice and tall, really puffing out the chest, almost in this superhero pose. As we exhale, we'll start to drop that chest towards the floor. Keeping the spine nice and flat, nice and strong. Coming into our standing forward folds. We're bringing the back down. Finding a comfortable position for the hands. So it might be on your legs, on your ankles, might be further up on the thighs, and we might be bringing the hands down to the mat. Maybe practicing kind of walking them through the legs, coming into this almost pancake shape. I'm not actually sure I know why they call this a pancake shape. Well, someone might have to explain that one to me later. But we're folding down, we're kind of feeling that thigh to belly connection. Pushing through the legs. The legs are nice and strong again. I've been working really hard today. Feeling into each of the toes. And then when you're ready, we're going to start to lower that pelvis down. So we're going to pelvis the hips, sorry. We're going to bring the hips down towards the mat. So coming towards our yogi squats, you might want to turn the heels inwards just slightly to do so. We'll bring the hips down and maybe swag the feet in, heel toe them in, just to come into our yogi squat. Great, guys. Taking a moment here, so we'll bring the hands to the heart center, maybe using the elbows to gently press on the knees to send them out. We'll lift that heart to our thumb to sternum connection, lifting chest to chin, chin to sky. Great, guys. Taking a moment to check in with the body and breath. And then we're going to release these hands almost as if we're doing a big yummy breaststroke. We're going to send the arms up in front, all the way back. We're going to guide our hips, our butt onto the floor, and then send the shins up into our boat pose. Whoa, nice and smooth. Coming into Navasana. We don't actually need to do it smoothly. We can pop feet down, come up however it takes us to get here. And again, we've always got our options. We can have the shins up to the sky, palms facing forward. We can take our hands to our thighs just to encourage that chest, that heart space to stay up nice and tall. We can take 1 foot down, we can take 2 feet down. Like even with your toes here, I'm still feeling a really strong connection to my center. So find where your energy level is at today. Shining that heart space forward. Repeating to yourself, I am enough, I do enough, I have enough. There's nothing to take because there's nothing you need to be complete. You've arrived in completeness, you're complete right here, right now. There is nothing to take. Holding it here. We're here for 3, 2, 1. We'll bring the hands behind the knees. Bringing the knees in towards the chest. Maybe we give the legs a little squeeze, little cuddle. And then we're going to release
them out towards the mat. Lovely. So we're going to come into our wide-legged forward fold before we come into a resting position. So we're coming back to our wide-legged fold, but we're going to keep both legs on the ground this time. So we're going to take the legs nice and wide, but again, whatever's comfortable for you. So we might be here, we might be further out, but really kind of grounding down into the earth and finding that comfortable position for the sitting bones. So you want to feel nice and supported. And we are going to come towards our forward fold, but before we do that, we're going to do a couple little exercises just to help get that kind of length in the legs. So you can keep your fingertips either in front of you or behind you. You might find one works better than the other. So maybe start with it in front. If that's not working, we'll take it behind. But we're just going to practice raising one leg and then the other. And we can either do this with our imagination, or you can put something next to your leg as a bit of a target. But what we're going to do is gently, with our inhale, we're going to lift that leg up and move it forward and back. So we're doing some little leg raises. Looks simple. I'm finding this really, really difficult. You guys might find it easy. We'll find out. So again, you can have that little prop to help you kind of visualize getting that leg up and over, or we can just practice moving back and forth. So we'll do that on one side. And again, if having the fingertips in front don't work, then maybe trying it behind, supporting ourselves from the back. Taking it on to the other side if we haven't already. So we've done it one side, we'll do it the other a couple times. Moving with the breath. Noticing what thoughts come up, and if we're already thinking, we're getting frustrated here, this is hard, just noticing that, being kind to ourselves. And maybe I'm projecting, because maybe you guys aren't finding this as hard as I find it, and I'm just creating frustration, and if so, that's all good. If you want, you can practice with both. For me, that is too much, so I'm not going to do that. Fab. And then when we're ready, when we're done with that, just giving them a little bit of a wriggle out. I like to slap the thighs a bit, release a bit of that tension. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Fab. And then we're going to do one more exercise before we actually come into the hold. So from here, we are going to take the fingertips behind us this time. And what you might want to do is kind of use the thumbs, and apologies, so now I'm a bit further away from my phone today because I had to change the orientation. But we're going to use the thumbs to support us, so kind of like spider fingers. And then from here, we'll inhale, sitting up nice and tall. As we exhale, we're going to push through our fingers, bring our chest towards the earth. So we're not going to come all the way flat here because we want to keep pushing away through the fingers. But we're just creating a bit of strength, a bit of length in the spine. We'll keep grounding down through our legs, through our feet. We can keep a soft bend in the knees. So even with a soft bend in the knees, we can still kind of ground down through the feet and feel really connected for our sitting bones. So squeezing the shoulder blades, pushing through the hand. You might start to feel all the little muscles around the spine working as they kind of hold us into place. Keeping the breath going here. Knowing there's nothing that we need to force. We're working with the body, not against it. And when you're ready, we'll release that pressure through the hands, almost walking our back up to stack, to head over heart, heart over pelvis. And then the bit we've all been waiting for, we're going to do our wide-legged forward fold, so our Upavishta Konasana. So keeping the legs nice and long, we're going to use all those same principles, so nice length and strength in the legs, that strength in the back that we had when we were using our fingertips to push away. But this time we'll bring the fingertips in front, and we'll just gently walk ourselves to a position where you're feeling that length in the back and in the legs. And that might be close to the floor, that might be in a forward fold shape, but that might be up here, sat up nice and tall. That might be where we feel that length, we feel that space. So as always, that's all good. We're going to find ourselves here. We're going to practice the pose that feels right for our body. Find what feels good, as our pal Adrian would say. And then maybe over time we can keep practicing those little asana, those little poses to get to a position where we're coming a bit closer to the floor. Keeping the breath going, listening to the breath. Not stealing satisfaction from ourselves by, trying to be elsewhere, whether that's somewhere else in this pose, somewhere else in our practice, or somewhere else entirely. So seeing what it feels like to really slow down and do less here. So not kind of forcing ourselves towards the floor just because we think that's where we should be. Maybe when we do less, that's when we start to really feel that strength building in the back body. It can be quite easy in our practice to almost, check poses off a list. So we work through, we're like, no, I'm going to do warrior one, I'm going to do warrior two, I'm going to do tree. We can just tick them off without really experiencing them. Just noticing what this does to your body, noticing what it does to your breath, noticing what it does to your mind. Holding the moment, being still here, so we're not trying to cram lots in. Lovely, guys. And then when you're ready, we use our fingertips. I just like using the fingertips. It's almost like you're supporting yourself. You don't have to, but sometimes it's nice just to take it slowly, walk ourselves back up. Use our hands to bring our old legs back in together. And we're going to start to come down towards a lying position. So coming down towards Shavasana. Maybe using the elbows to kind of lower down. Feeling the shoulders, the arms, nice and heavy on the earth. Oh, my back made a funny noise on my mat. I'm going to bring that knee in towards the chest. So bringing the left knee in, interlacing the fingers around. We're going to gently squeeze it up to the belly or to the armpit, maybe taking it a bit wider, especially Lizzie, you might want to take it out to the side just a little bit, squeezing it here. We've done a lot of hamstring lengthening tonight, so we want to give the hamstrings a bit of a relax, a bit of a release. And then we're going to swap those legs over, so bringing the right knee up this time. And then we can keep that left foot placed gently on the mat if that's supportive. Or maybe we take it out long to get a bit of a stretch in the hip flex or whatever your body is asking for. Making the most of the movement, rolling through the ankle. And then taking any final movements you want to take before your Shavasana, so whatever your body needs. It might be bringing the opposite knee back up and reaching for the feet for a little final happy baby. I know that's the option I always take whenever I'm asked that, because I love me a happy baby, I'm not gonna lie. But doing what feels good for you, maybe it's some nice arm stretches, maybe it's some twists, taking the knees from side to side. Maybe we're cactusing the arms. And then when you're ready, we're going to come towards our Shavasana. So grabbing anything you want to make it cozy, whether that's some extra layers, a blanket, a cushion, something to the head. Yes, love it. I love when everybody starts getting their blankets out. So taking the legs nice and long. Dropping into our lovely Shavasana where we really start to integrate the effects of the physical practice, the mental practice, the emotional practice. So feeling the arms and legs nice and heavy in the mat here. Maybe tucking the chin slightly to get a little stretch in the back of the neck. Finding this space of silence before we move into the world. Taking this chance to really listen in.
Remembering that there's nothing to take, because there's nothing more you need to be complete. You've arrived in completeness. You are complete right now. Resting as you replenish your energy. Using this quiet place, this still place, to return to the breath. Returning to the truth that the practice can show us, that you are enough. And we don't need to practice perfect yoga poses for that truth to be real. You were enough before the yoga practice, and you are enough after. There's nothing you need to do, and there's nothing you need to take to be enough. No pose to force yourself into. Noticing what the body is telling you here. Noticing what you hear here when you stop to listen. Pausing in this in-between space. Maybe hearing your heartbeat or feeling the sensations, that throbbing, the buzzing in your body that tells you that you're alive. Listening to your inner self as we stay nice and present and we focus on that breath. So we have these final few moments of our practice. Just reminding ourselves there's nowhere else we need to be, nothing else we need to be doing. Nothing more important than this. So let's make this commitment to not steal this moment from ourselves. This chance to tune in and connect and be truly present. So I'm going to go nice and quiet for a minute or so, and during this minute, if we need to, using that breath as an anchor. So every time the breath starts to wander, every time we start to think ahead, we're going to come back to that breath and be nice and present. Just bringing our attention back to our external surroundings, back to our body, back to the room that we're in. And as always, you've got the option, if you want to stay here, then I can pop you in the waiting room and you can continue into your lovely Shavasana. Or if we want to bring a little bit of energy back to move out into our evenings and starting to bring some movement back into the body, in whatever way feels good for you, whatever that means to you. Maybe it's taking the arms up and overhead, maybe it's giving ourselves a final little cuddle, maybe it's rolling through the wrists and through the ankles. And then we'll slowly come up to seated, but knowing that there's no rush. I'm in no rush. We're all here, we're practicing together, so we can take our time. Coming to our seated position to finish our practice. Maybe bringing the hands to the heart center or popping them on your knees. Making a final commitment to ourselves as we go out into our evenings to stay super present, look for those opportunities to kind of remind ourselves that we're enough and that we don't need anything else. We can practice a stay on and off the mat. So reminding ourselves here that you are enough, you do enough, you have enough. You are enough, you do enough, you have enough. So you were enough before this practice. I know you'll be enough after. So thank you for practicing with me. Thank you for practicing with each other. Have a lovely evening. I will bow to you all to finish our practice. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. I'm just going to finish the recording. Thanks for anyone on the recording. Sorry for the orientation.